Chapter 126. I walked out of my portal, my house coming into view and a beautiful woman being carried in my arms. Her feet kicked in the air happily, arms around my neck to support herself, and a bright smile on her face. She curiously surveyed the area, taking in everything around her, every new piece of information that provided her with a sense of fulfillment. "This is your home?" Jin asked. "It's my house, and the world I was born to," I replied. "You don't consider it your home then?" She cutely tilted her head up at me. "I don't suppose I do. If it wasn't for a few people here, I would not have an emotional investment in this world, merely keeping an eye on it due to a sense of duty." My lips thinned into a small line as I looked over the place. I need to actually get furniture and stuff now that I think about. She pat my shoulder, gesturing for me to let her down as I walked through the door. There was no point in locking it. If someone could get past my magical protections, what would a locked wooden door do? "It's empty." She deadpanned. I said I haven't gotten any furniture. She gave me an unamused look. "And you expect me to spend long periods of time here?" You can do whatever you want with it," I offered. She pursed her lips before giving a small grunt. "Fine. Show me what you want to do." I led her to where I had my little mechanism set up. "So, I have the calculations done, mostly. It works in theory, but I haven't tested it beyond just this world. Your lamp is both going to act as a battery, not in the magical power sense, but something to charge the anchorage. To make sure the house never tilts off its dimensional axis. I don't know the underlying principles, but I understand what you want to achieve. To do this would require an obscene amount of magical energy." She tapped her cheek. "From what I've seen with your magic, so far, it can potentially pull on a near infinite amount. How will you sustain that flow when you're away?" I blinked at her well-reasoned question. "Did I ever tell you that I find your impressive magical knowledge extremely attractive?" "No, but I very much enjoy the compliment." She beamed. "But you didn't answer the question." She gently poked me. Right. I focused. "It's actually not too hard, relatively speaking. Basically, since the house is stretched and overlaid across so many world lines, I can make use of that connection to siphon magical energy from each world it passes through. Normally, to do something like that, I would have to directly manipulate it, but since the house itself will be existing in multiple places, it removes the need for my presence." "I understand." She nodded, and it seemed genuine. "I wouldn't know where to begin if you wanted me to look over your calculations. I will simply trust you on this for now. I'll be making sure everything is safe, and I'll be adding an obscene amount of defenses here just in case. I do appreciate the thought, but I am quite powerful. Even if you were as strong as Meridia, that wouldn't stop me from worrying." She let out a small huff, annoyance on her face. "If you continue to be this sweet to me, I'm not going to wait until you're ready and pull you into the nearest bed myself." She grumbled something I didn't quite make out. "I see what needs to be done, but it shouldn't take very long to accomplish. What else did you wish to do while we're here?" "Visit a couple people. Was missing my daughter. Would you like me to stay here?" I booped her nose. "Don't be silly, you're a part of my life, so I want you to know everyone else that is as well." She just giggled, holding her arms out. "Well?" I couldn't help but smile, sweeping her off her feet again. She really seemed to like physical contact. "Let's go see my daughter." I opened another portal and walked back through towards Yasaka's home. "Daddy." I turned to see the target of my affection, her fluffy tails swaying happily and her ears twitching on her head. I turned to the side to see Yasaka gesturing to some guards who looked ready to attack. They quickly backed off when they realized we weren't a threat, or they recognized me from before. Jin was already standing next to me and I kneeled on the ground as a fox-shaped missile fired into my arms. "My little fox, how've you been?" My hands easily wrapped around her, hugging her tight. "I missed you." She mumbled into my chest, gripping my shirt. "I missed you too." I couldn't help but smile brightly at her antics. I got a good look at her as she pulled away. "Look at you, have you gotten taller?" I pat her head, her ears twitching. She swiped my hand away in embarrassment, causing me to chuckle. "Have you been good for your mother?" "I've been good." The way she said it betrayed her words. "Have you now?" Yasaka finally walked up. I eyed her for a moment. She seemed a tad different. The last time I saw her, her breasts were on full display and barely held back by her kimono with an air of flirtation about her, but she looked a lot more reserved right now. "Why don't you tell your daddy what happened while he was away?" Yasaka lightly chided her daughter. It was an accident. Kunu looked at the ground. Hey, it's okay. I put my hand on her shoulder. Just tell me what happened. I was practicing my foxfire and... She pouted. I accidentally burnt down a building. She looked away. So mom grounded me. Kunu, we talked about this. I didn't ground you because you accidentally burnt the building down. I grounded you because you lied to me about it. Yasaka's tone was soft, even as she reprimanded Kunu. I shared a look with Yasaka, one of exasperation returned to me. Kunu. I grabbed her attention again. Accidents happen, they're going to happen again. But you have to own up to them. I've made many mistakes in my life, we all do, it's a part of growing up. As long as you learn from them, and accept responsibility, then it's okay. You're not mad? She asked quietly. Sweetie, I'm not mad. I reassured her, gaining another hug. Was she afraid I would be disappointed or angry at her for this? Kids don't really think things through logically at this age, shit like this was going to happen again, and they probably think getting their parents upset is the worst thing in the world and just act without thinking in an attempt to avoid that. I flipped my hand over, hiding behind Kunu's back so only Yasaka could see. I revealed a little hair ornament, tasteful in design without being too fancy. It boasted a little bit of splendor in the form of red leaves, reminiscence of the forever fall forest from when I went shopping around Vale in my free time. She looked at it inquisitively and I gestured to Kunu. She realized what I was getting as she rolled her eyes with a small smile and nodded to me. My little fox, I have a present for you. I gentle broke the hug, bringing the piece of jewelry out in front of her. It's pretty. She reached out to touch it. Would you like to try it on? I offered. Yes. She happily replied. I smiled as I pushed a few bangs out of the way, helping her set it into her hair. It really did complement her yellow eyes and the highlights at the tips of her blonde hair. I waved my hand, forming a small bit of water to act as a mirror so she could see it. Kunu, what do you say? Yasaka was quick to make sure Kunu didn't get lost in her own thoughts. Thank you, Daddy. Of course. I laughed, rubbed her ears for a moment. Standing up, I looked over to Jin who had patiently been waiting at my side for a few minutes now. I believe I should introduce my companion. Yasaka gave a good-natured smile. Another one of your harem members? Yes. Jin replied without a hint of shame, maybe even happy at the title. Yasaka raised an eyebrow, not expecting the blatant response it seems. This is Jin. I snuck my hand into hers. She's my woman. Jin, like the ones from the Middle East? Yasaka looked at my blue genie inquisitively. Are you named after your species? I'm not one of those. Jin replied without any offense. I'm actually an artifact spirit. My creators simply had a sense of humor, it seems. Oh my. She looked at the very obvious miniature lamps around Jin's neck. I admit, I've never seen an artifact spirit so lifelike. Yasaka looked a little more curious about Jin, but it appeared she held herself back from further questions. I'm Yasaka, I rule over half the yokai in Japan. And this little hellion is my daughter. Yasaka scooped up Kunu, much to Kunu's fidgeting. Are you my auntie? The little fox asked. Jin looked surprised by the question, but quickly recovered. Yes I am. She looked genuinely enthused at the idea. I couldn't fault her, the idea of family was probably something that never crossed her mind before. And here Kunu was declaring her an auntie. Your skin is very pretty. Kunu looked at Jin with interest. Why, thank you, little one. Your tails and ears are quite cute as well. Jin giggled. See, can I touch? Jin knelt down next to her, holding her hand up. Kunu reached out and touched her for a moment. This was probably one of the most heartwarming things I've ever seen in my life. I looked at Yasaka and she smiled back at me, if her expression was anything to go by, she shared my sentiment. So, how's Izzy? I lifted up a teacup to my mouth, enjoying a small sip as we shared a table in a quaint little courtyard. She's doing well. She visited about a week ago. That was before Kunu decided that playing with fire inside a wooden building was a good idea. Yasaka deadpanned. I chuckled, setting down my teacup. Maybe I should drop in before I leave. I mused. I think she said something about meeting up with some other gods. Yasaka didn't sound too sure. When are you leaving, exactly? Ah, I think Izzy did say something about meeting up with the other death gods the last time we chatted. Few hours, actually. I answered. So soon? She frowned slightly. Unfortunately, but I'll be sure to keep dropping by whenever I have time. I eyed Jin and Kunu out of the corner of my eye. They were laying down on the ground, a few books open in front of them. Apparently, Jin was helping Kunu with her homework. Fucking adorable. Good. Yasaka simply stated. Kunu would hate for you to be gone too long. Would she be the only one? I raised an eyebrow, a small smile on my face. No. Yasaka surprisingly didn't adopt her flirtatious attitude. I enjoy having you around. You have done many things for me that I can't even begin to explain how grateful I am for. And above all else, you make our daughter happy. She corrected with a small sigh. Maybe I just didn't realize how much she had withdrawn into herself over the years. Whether you were merely a catalyst or a happenstance, your presence makes her happier. I would be lying if I said it wasn't surprising for me to suddenly feel so protective of her, to see her as my daughter. I wasn't blind to what happened. Maybe it was something both of us needed. Well, whatever the reason. Her lips curled up. You're stuck with her, with us. I mirrored her expression. I guess I am. And I didn't have an issue with that. That reminds me, how's everything after the attack? She let out a groan, slumping in her chair. A hassle. She scowled. Many clans shouting and arguing over the most inane things while we try to reconstruct with minimal difficulty and cost. Would I be overstepping if I offered help? She was a ruler, I didn't want to imply anything by an offer of aid. You're sweet to offer, but there isn't much you can do, bar beating up the idiots in my court, which I am close to authorizing. She giggled. Ironically enough, Arthur had been a big help to sort some things out. Arthur, really? I'm embarrassed to admit I kind of forgot about him, as he was more Artoria's pet project. Some stray yokai acting up or causing issues. He'd go in and settle the issues along with an odd mission here or there. Yasaka explained. Artoria will be pleased he's doing his job. I nodded. What are your thoughts on him so far? I don't want to stomp his face into the dirt every time I see him anymore. I believe that is a good sign. She snorted. Well, I don't expect you to ever like the kid. I shrugged. I'm pleased, I suppose, with how it turned out. He's not a bad kid, I understand that, but with Kunu being targeted, even if he didn't act directly, I don't know if I can ever forgive him. You don't need to explain yourself to me. You're under no obligation to forgive him, doing what you've done already is merciful. Artoria just felt responsible for Hai due to their connection. How is Artoria? I haven't had a chance to chat with her much. She idly asked. Good. I smiled. She's out on an adventure with Rin, acting as her sword. I do hope they come and visit sometime. I want to properly thank them for keeping Kunu occupied during that period. Rin would love to come by, and Artoria as well. But grandfather is difficult to get away from his work. You human mages, always so busy. She let out a small laugh. I do wonder where that even was, the place felt so strange. I could only assume it was some small realm somewhere remote. I just hummed, not answering that question. I'm only half human. I corrected. You know what I mean. She rolled her eyes. Jin also seems to be getting along well with Kunu. I truly did luck out with you, didn't I? I think Kunu captured Jin the moment she called her Auntie. I laughed. Oh my, that look on her face. Yasaka cupped her cheek. I wish I had a camera when that happened. It's the first time she's ever had anything resembling the concept of a family. I sighed. She lived her entire existence inside the artifact. She's much older than you think, so please be gentle with her with these things. Yasaka cast Jin a warm look. If you brought her near our daughter, I'm more than willing to trust your judgment, and so far, she has been nothing short of exemplary towards Kunu. I wonder if your other women will be as taken with her. Well, Meridia did express her desire to meet my daughter, maybe in the future. I could easily picture Meridia getting flustered at the cute fluff. Meridia, huh? I wonder how many you have right now. Yasaka gave a sly look. Counting Jin, 4. It wasn't really a secret. You've met Artoria already. Hopefully it will become 5 soon. She grinned. I blinked, it was different than her usual flirtations. You really are forward. Do you dislike it? She asked. I paused, giving it some thought. No, I can't say that I do. Good. She calmly reached out, taking a sip of her own tea. Then I'm going to pursue you. Pardon. I was startled at her sudden declaration. I'm going to pursue you. You have many things I like in a partner, and you're already Kuna's father. What more could I ask for? I don't know how to respond. Is this how my own girls felt? Get a taste of your own medicine. Fuck off. You finally met your match. Drake laughed inside my soul. I just ignored him. You don't need to reply. I just wanted you to know for now. Yasaka gave a small smile beret of any kind of insincerity. Just so you know, you're blushing. Fuck you, I am not. At least, I hope I'm not. Though, by the looks Yasaka is giving me, fuck. Is this what it's like on the other side of the fence? We said our goodbyes and began heading back. My little Kunu not wanting to let me go, and I had trouble releasing her as well. Yasaka was, I don't know. How was I supposed to take that? I've never been on the receiving end like this before, and I was having trouble responding appropriately. I pushed my rampant emotions down for now. There would be time to sort them out later. Jin hummed happily. In fact, I don't think I've ever seen her quite so joyful before. This surpassed the looks she gave when surrounded by the books in the library. This was more heartfelt. Kuna's a sweetheart, isn't she? Jin turned to me, wide grin on her face. I have a niece. She giggled to herself, clearly taking the role to heart. Well, soon we'll have it so you can visit more often. I opened the door to our home. Let's get started, put your lamp on the pedestal so we can begin. She did as I asked, her own magics flaring up and analyzing the situation for added precautions. Her lamp inserted easily enough, and my calculations seemed to hold strong as I pushed on the kaleidoscope to begin stretching the boundary. Now, hold it here and I'll connect to the point over in Skyrim. Be careful. She reached out tugging my sleeve. While not that dangerous, her sentiment was appreciated. I leaned forward, stealing her lips for a brief moment and gave her a reassuring smile. Just give me a second and we'll get this finally settled. I'll wait for you. She said warmly, standing guard over her lamp. I gave her one last look before departing back to Skyrim, the view of Whiterun coming into focus, a little in the distance. Flipping my hand over, I took out the parchment that the Jarl gave me, a rough estimation of my land. While it was a fair bit, I only needed a small portion right now, and rough idea of where to plop my house down. Thankfully, there was a crude map drawn on it with some landscape to show where I could put it. I surveyed the area briefly, looking for the flattest piece of land with a good area to expand from the future. Holding my hands up, I mentally did some calculations on dimensions to see how it would fit. Mountains behind, Whiterun in the distance, and no close neighbors. It was a good spot. Alrighty then, let's get started. Mirage in my hand, I stabbed it into the ground. My hands pulsed with magical energy as I began to expand the dimensional refraction phenomena, reaching out towards the world line that housed Jin. For someone experienced with this kind of magic, her anchor, her existence was a little like a beacon, intentional on my part for now so I could easily identify her. Pressing against the eye of Magnus at the end of my blade, I expanded a full three-dimensional view of my various calculations and spell equations. Everything that was happening inside the eye, everything that was currently being processed, I was looking over for any anomalies. A magical computer was the most apt description for this trinket that sat on the end of my sword. With everything set and having double-checked it all, I began. Ironically, what I was actually doing was a bit stupid, despite the absurd nature of my magical prowess being used. I was basically just grabbing a corner of the house, and dragging in through an invisible funnel so it touched down here in this world line, then nail it in place across the world lines so it wouldn't budge. Jin's lamp acting as a sort of hammer that pushes the nails back in every time she puts her lamp in place. I was including fail-safes, that if the nails came undone, the house would be pulled back to my birth world safely. Actually, I made that a defense mechanism, a last resort for Jin if all else failed, along with anyone else in the house at the time. I clapped my hand and the bright lights shined out around me. Visibly, a house appeared on the land in front of me, becoming less and less ethereal with every passing moment until it was truly reaffirmed on this world line. Letting out a long breath, I admired my work before going to check on Jin. Her happy expression telling me everything I need to know. It worked? She asked. Come outside and see for yourself. I offered, stepping out of the doorway. She peeked outside, the Skyrim weather hitting her right in the face. I have a question. Yes? How am I supposed to get to the college from here? I raised my finger up before stopping. Oh, I forgot about that. She can't simply open portals everywhere like I can. Whoops. I awkwardly laughed, scratching my head. Well, it shouldn't be too hard to find some land near the college I can buy. If you want to support me, check out my Patreon at https://www.patreon.com/Kayashin. I tend to polls that decide important plot stuff in my Patreon. Many thanks to my awesome patrons. Ben Phillips, Yamatancho, Yuki, Search 1301.
If you enjoyed the content, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to the channel. I'll be here until next time.